Alright, so today we're going to learn how to mix beats. This is the most practical tutorial you probably ever have on mixing beats or mixing music. No BS. Let's get straight to it. A disclaimer, I use Waves plugins just because they're good. You can get access to all the Waves plugins for one monthly subscription fee. So yeah, let's take a listen to the beat before we actually learn how to mix.
Hey yo, Rubies.
Rubik's. Rubik's.
Alright, so that's how the beat sounds. So, like I said, it's a very practical tutorial. Everything that you ever watched about mixing techniques will be applied in this tutorial. So the first thing I do, I mix my drums first. You don't have to do this, but this is what I do. And feel free to take notes during the video and whatever. So I mix my drums. The first thing you want to do, you want to level. Don't worry about what I call it, pre-meter fadering and all of that. Just level to how you want it. Normally my kick is the loudest. So let's see. Hold on, let me read these. And then I can always see kick first. So after I do the kick, actually let me turn off the mastering chain so that you can get a good idea of how. And mark it, these sounds are mixed already. I'm just going to walk through what I do to each song. So this is without any mastering plugins. Let's just take a listen to all of them. Sorry. So what I basically do, like I said, you want to level first. So my kick is normally the loudest thing, and then followed by my snares, then my hi-hats. And I should have led with this, but when you're mixing is just basically about making space for things. So you want everything to sound clear, so you have to make space for everything, whether that be by making compressing sounds so that one sound sounds more steady in comparison to another sound, so you can get that contrast. In terms of clarity, whether you're going to use EQ to filter out some sounds, so that you can hear one sound in one section of the frequency range as compared to another section of the frequency range. Or maybe you're going to use stereo imaging, and I use all of these techniques and all of that, and reverb too, because you can use reverb to push back stuff in the mix or whatever they say, push back stuff in the mix. But the essential thing you need to understand about mixing is that mixing is just about making space for everything so that you can hear everything. So like I said, I start with my drums and then I level the drums. So all of these are leveled to how I want it to be. So you can hear the kick really loud and the snare, and then you kind of hear the hats in the background. That's because I use reverb. So what you do to the kick? Normally you want your kick to punch. So the way you do that, this knock plugin that I have, well, this one isn't from Waves. This knock plugin, is just to add saturation to the kick so that you can get a little more punch. Well, let me see if I can open the plugin. Okay. Alright. Plugin loaded as. Whatever. Alright, so let's see. I can always turn it off after. Alright, so you see, for this specific beat, I wanted the low end of the kick to come through more. So this saturation setting affects the low end of the sound more. So I gave it a little saturation. Let me see. Little saturation. Listen to it now. Plus punch, and then I messed with the soft clipping so that at least I don't have my peaks clipping the fader. And then I added a little bit of this air so that you can hear more of the top end of the kick come out. So in this particular beat, I wanted this kick to have a little more low end, because when I listened to the bass, when I was mixing the bass, I realized that the bass didn't have that much low frequencies in it, so I gave a little more to the kick. And like I said, mixing is just about creating space for things. And then you can see with this plugin now, I carried down the width of the sound so that it could be in the center of the stereo field, so that you can hear it punch. Normally, you'd watch videos saying normally you keep your bass and you kick in the center of the stereo field so that it can hit you in the chest or whatever. You can feel it better. So I basically lowered the stereo image of my kick. So that's that. And then we'll have the snare now. So basically, in order, because also when you have your percussion, the way I mix my percussion and my drums, I'll try to keep my kick and my snare in the middle of the stereo field. So this is the snare or the rim, the beautiful rim. And in order to achieve a little more space, what I did was add reverb. So by adding reverb on this snare, um all right, let me try and walk you through. So by increasing the mix, they say normally you can push stuff a little more to the back of the mix using reverb. So that's essentially what I did. I just created a small room here with a small attack in terms of how quickly the reverb comes in, and then I also gave it a little mix so it could push it a little more back in the mix. So listen to it with the reverb off. So listen to the kick and the snare. You see, it's like getting drowned out, but so you can hear the snare a little behind the kick, and then of course you want your percussion to punch. So I have the same knock plugin, not doing that much, just a clipper, not even saturating. Well, there's some saturation here of the high end, just so that the rim can come out a little more. And then you see there's this secondary snare. I didn't even mix it that much. I just use panning. Oh, panning creates space as well. So I use panning, put it to the left, because sometimes when the kick and the snare hit or whatever, you maybe the kick and the snare will hit at the same time. So if you have another instrument coming in, you might get um you might not have that much clarity. So listen to, and then also when you lower the volume of things, it's like the lower the volume, it's perceived more as being back in the mix compared to when you increase the volume. It gives you the perception of stuff being up front. So I took all of this is taken into consideration. But the main thing you have to understand with mixing is that when you're mixing, you're just trying to create space for different things. And you and write this down if you want to. The way I create space, and I'm just saying me, I use equalization, stereo imaging, reverb, panning, volume control, compression. All of these things can allow you to achieve space. That's the main premise of mixing, to make everything have their own space. So now we'll move on to the hi-hats. And you can just see that I pan each hi-hat a little bit to the left or right, just to create some, not only move space in the mix, but to create some movement in terms of the hi-hats. Can give a nice little acoustic effect when you have stuff like, say, one hi-hat pan to the left and then one pan to the right. You can have that interplay between both ears, and that can add a little ear candy as well. But in terms of the main mixing for this, for the hi-hats, literally just reverb, just so you can hear it more clearly and create space. So listen to it without. So you see, like, it kind of competing with the rim and the kick in terms of space in the frequency range. So, but because you want your hi-hats to be clear as well, you can just add some reverb so I can give it space. That's essentially it. And it gives it a nice little sounding effect when you have the hi-hat sounding like they're in a small room. See? So the amount of space that you can achieve just using reverb in order to create space. Yeah, and then in terms of these are the open hi-hats now. So I just stack them in a sum, and then in order to, like, literally what I'm doing is just creating space, thinking how can I create space to ensure that everything sounds cohesive and sound good together. So see, alright, I went really hard on the stereo imaging for this one for the open hi hats because it hit normally when I make my beats. I normally on the first kick that comes in, I normally place an open hi hat on the kick because it just adds a lot to the transient and the punch of the first beat. But you also don't want to lose the quality of the kick or the characteristic of the kick, so that's why I use stereo imaging. And then you also have reverb to create space as well and push it a little, well, I push it way back so that you can hear the kick clearly. So let's listen to it without. Listen to the hi hat. Oh wait. Oh yeah, I can mute. Alright, listen to it. It's going tss. Now listen to it with the stereo image. You can hear the transient of the kick come through way more. See? So it's just about creating space. Just about creating space, and then you can yeah, it's just about creating space. So see, and then after that, now after you create space among each instrument, you want everything to sound cohesive to each other. Normally, I mean not cohesive to each other, cohesive with each other. So normally, how I would achieve that, um, all the drums are going to this bus called trap drum kit. Well, this is my trap drum kit. So it's all of the sounds are going to this bus. Let me see something real quick. Oh, drum tape or drum set. Okay, so all of the drums are going to this bus. I literally only use the limiter just to control peaks here, and it gives it a nice cohesive sound to it because all of the transients aren't going crazy. So it like literally just chops off some of the peaks. So it makes it sound a little tighter. And literally when I'm using compression for drums, you literally using compression to either, depending on your attack time and your release time. If you have a fast attack time, you want stuff that's you're trying to make stuff sound more glued together. You always hear that term glued together in terms of compression, but it's literally just setting your attack time in such a way where everything sounds tighter, much tighter. Or if you wanted your drums to sound more punchy, you could use a longer attack time, so that way more of the transient of the, whether it's the kick drum of your drums to come through, so you can get those transients hitting you harder. But literally, I use a limiter right here just so that I could control the peaks and let everything sound a little more tighter. So listen to it. Okay, no, listen to the limiter on everything without it. You can just see it sounds a little looser. And maybe that's the sound you want to go for. That's completely up to you. At the end of the day, it's not really a hard and fast science about these things. It's about how you use your discretion to make choices. But like I said, the main premise of mixing is to ensure that everything receives its own space, so that everything can sound clear and everything can sound cohesive. So listen to it without again. You can see it sounds a little looser, and listen with the limiter. Yeah, man, that definitely sounds tighter to me. Alright, let's. So, I'm sorry. On my main bus, no, not my main bus. On the drum bus sum, or whatever you want to call it.